Compassionate, fearless, brilliant. Well, those are a few words that come to my mind when describing some of Houston's most inspiring women. Well, this is a series to recognize them. Some of them are household names. Others, once you hear their story, you'll never forget them. Our first woman of the week is half of the ministry that's become recognized around the world. The would-be jeweler or psychologist says she never could have imagined a life at Lakewood.
You require truth.
Every weekend around the world, Lakewood church services are seen and heard by 7 million people in 100 countries. When Joel Osteen preaches, his biggest fan is right by his side.
You may be wondering.
Victoria Osteen is co-pastor today.
But sometimes it sure doesn't
She says her most comfortable role is being mother of 2 college students at the University of Texas.
I'm a mother, I'm a pastor. But I'm just an ordinary woman, trying to do my very best.
So glad to see you. Happy.
Her role at Lakewood started with small assignments during the offering.
But one day he looked at me and he said, Victoria, God spoke this to me. The day you start doing your part is when the church will grow. And I thought, hey, wait a minute.
My mind is alert.
But he was right. The East Side Church was bursting at the seams before moving to its current home, the former Compaq Center and the site of the Osteen's first date.
If somebody would have told us the first date that we had that someday, we would be ministering from the Compaq Center, we would have just probably laughed or ran, number one.
we need to chase after wisdom.
Osteen was born Victoria Iloff. Her father, a NASA engineer, her mother still runs a jewelry store. She never imagined a life in ministry or the spotlight.
When I went to college, I studied psychology. And so I always thought, I want to just do something to help people.
Then came the day in 1985 when Joel walked into that family-owned jewelry store.
My life kind of changed when I met Joel. He was not a minister. He did television production.
The Osteens were married 12 years before Joel's father died, Pastor John Osteen, founder of Lakewood Church. It was then she saw the beginning of her husband's path to the pulpit.
Down on everyone that needs it.
She says she believes her husband is using his God-given gifts.
I really think Joel has a way of applying the Word of God to people's life. They can simply ingest it, and they get revelation from it.
And she's paving her own path to use hers.
I just want to do what God's called me to do. There's many women who do great things, but I just want to be the type of person that says, whatever you're supposed to do, your giftings, the things that you love, do those to the best of your ability and celebrate others.
I won't find fault in you.
Victoria Osteen, ABC 13's Woman of the Week.
When she arrived in this country, she didn't even know English. A self-described dreamer, her leadership and outlook seemed to be contagious for Cougars.
Another graduation is here, and a new class will leave the University of Houston. For those walking across the stage with a U of H diploma, being a Cougar has changed.
I have known of people who have come back and they literally have cried. They said, never thought I would see this kind of campus.
The driving force behind it, a woman who's become somewhat of a rock star on campus, from potential students to soon-to-be alums.
We're graduating?
Yes.
Oh, how about
Thank you.
that?
Students learn who Dr. Renew Couture is their first week of classes. She visits every freshman class and personally gives students her email.
And if you do come, you'll have to go with Go Cougs. That's our sign.
The president and chancellor of the U of H system is the first Indian immigrant to lead a comprehensive research university and originally came to the U.S. as part of an arranged marriage without knowing one word of English.
I learned my English from watching I Love Lucy, Andy Griffith Show, Dick Van Dyke Show.
She says her husband supported her educational dreams as she earned a master's and PhD from Purdue University and has the same kind of hopes for every student on campus.
When you have people who are coming from either underprivileged background or low socioeconomic background, I don't dream average or low for them. That's just not good enough.
Under her leadership the past decade, the university has broken enrollment records, achieved Tier 1 research status in record time, and is in the middle of a $1 billion capital campaign. They've also been part of the national conversation in athletics. Her husband is Associate Dean of Cullen College of Engineering. The mother of 2 daughters with doctorate degrees says it's her passion and mission that keeps her going.
So I hope when the students leave from the University of Houston, they leave with that kind of pride, esteem, and confidence that they can do anything in this world. And I think the best thing that I like, that I feel could be part of the legacy, is when I hear from people, I'm so proud to be a Cougar.
Dr. Renu Couture, ABC 13's Woman of the Week.
Well, her flight path in life wasn't expected. She grew up in California, but she has landed in the history books. 4 space missions, more than 1,000 hours in orbit. And this month, she's been inducted into the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame.
6, 5, 4, 3. When she soared into orbit aboard Space Shuttle Discovery in 1993, Dr. Ellen Ochoa launched an entire generation of young girls' dreams.
When I was little, there were no women astronauts, so nobody would ever ask you, do you want to grow up and be an astronaut or anything like that, and it just really never entered my mind.
And space was not an immediate thought for her future.
I also liked music. I played flute starting in the 6th grade, and that was a really important activity for me throughout high school and college.
As she excelled in math and science, gravity pulled at her, especially when the first space shuttle mission took place during graduate school at Stanford.
And at that point, I was studying really to be a research engineer. So it seemed like the perfect marriage of interest in space and really being able to do exciting research.
12 years later, she became the first Hispanic woman in space.
What it really meant was that when I got back from space, I had all kinds of opportunities to talk to audiences all around the country. And a lot of them were schools that had high Hispanic populations. This is one of 3 laboratories.
Today, the director of the Johnson Space Center balances marriage and motherhood.
Kids aren't as impressed about that as you might think. You know, I remember actually calling my son from space. He was not quite 4. He had seen the launch, and this was a few days later. And I said, "Well, what'd you think of the launch?" And he said, "Mommy, I got to ride on an airplane." Because he was talking about the plane that took him from Houston down to the Cape.
As for her flute, she's played it in space and still plays today.
I played a few minutes this morning. So someday when I have more time, I'll be able to come back to it, maybe have a chamber group.
But for now, she's focused on her mission at JSC.
Is Mars the next frontier?
Mars is really that horizon goal. We do want to send humans to Mars, absolutely.
So do you believe in your lifetime we'll see a man or a woman step foot on Mars?
I do. It's really just a matter of our country deciding that that's what we want to do.
Dr. Ellen Ochoa, ABC 13's Woman of the Week. Step by step, her pink boots have led her to the energy corridor, but it's a bike that gets her to work every day. One word can pretty much sum up Katie Maynard's personality.
I am a bundle of energy. I am an absolute bundle of energy.
It's also the industry she's spent her life advocating for.
It powers everything. It moved us into the modern age.
Maynard was the daughter of an oil and gas engineer who felt the pain of the bust of the 80s.
And when my dad was let go, I remember him telling me as a young person, do not get into this industry. It's a dead end.
The now wife and mother defied his advice and learned about tough times immediately in her first job at Enron. From there, she worked her way up within several more energy companies.
I've been blessed to have crisis in my life because that's just helped me grow into the jobs that I've had since.
Then came the question on a flight from London that sparked a new fire.
Sit next to a gentleman and he said, "What's a pretty young lady like you doing in a dark, dangerous business like oil?" And I thought, women, energy. What are the stereotypes right here?
Pink Petro was born on a cocktail napkin. A company to promote women and minorities in energy, educate the public about the industry, and tell the stories to help change the perception.
I think the biggest misconception about energy and energy companies, truthfully, is that companies don't care. And that's just so far from the truth. Because companies are made of people. And these are people like you and I that get up every day and value the air we breathe, right? The water we drink.
As for women in the industry,
we're at an inflection point, I think, where there's a huge encouragement to get women and girls, right, to take risks. But the stats in oil and gas and in energy are horrific. We're dead last.
It will take a lot of steps in those pink boots, but she has no intentions of walking slowly to get there.
Find a place where you can make a difference. Don't run into something safe. Run into the fire a bit, right? Takes risks.
Katie Maynard, ABC 13's Woman of the Week.
It's amazing that I should be right here.
A popular and important stop for student field trips, the Health Museum has endless interactive learning opportunities for kids.
So this is the DNA strand right here.
But when Dr. Melanie Johnson became president and CEO of the museum 2 years ago, she saw beyond its basic bone structure, a new face for the museum.
We'd like to be the genius space, and that's what we are growing and evolving and becoming.
She says she wants the museum to be a household name.
When someone leaves here, we hope that they realize that being intelligent is inspirational, is magnificent, and it's not something that's reserved for that group of people, but it's reserved for all people. That's why it's so large. It's as big as Texas, or a Texas-sized heart, because it's the #1 killer.
The Alabama native and Auburn grad started her career in education at Houston area schools. She says she had no idea her studies in international business and French might take her here.
Absolutely, that's not one of those things that you grow up and say, I'm going to be the CEO of the Health Museum.
She wants to take the health discussion to new places, wellness.
So there'll be some more faces maybe in these.
That's why these empty spaces are here.
Humanity, where everyone can see themselves through exhibits like this one.
We're pushing the envelope a little bit, having those critical conversations about race and the effects of race on health.
Johnson is a wife and mother of 2 sons, her youngest heading to college this fall to play football.
I work very hard. There is no question about that, but I do have a pretty solid work-life balance. I walk to work. I live within the community that I serve. I think this is going to be absolutely amazing.
Under Johnson's leadership, the museum is gaining national prominence, the first Smithsonian affiliate in the Houston Museum District.
What we want to do with that is bring the most iconic historical artifacts to the Health Museum so that visitors can appreciate and be informed about those rare jewels that lie in the Smithsonian.
And she doesn't want it to end there.
It's not so much about looking like a man and acting like a man and not wearing pink and things like that. I think it's so wonderful that those who paved the way before us gave us the opportunity to be as feminine as possible, but as strong as possible, and that they are synonymous.
Dr. Melanie Johnson, ABC 13's Woman of the Week.